Hey everybody, and welcome to the first episode of A State of Serenity, the newest podcast endeavor I'm doing here on the channel. It is exclusive to YouTube. I should be very forthcoming about that now. I'm not going through the hurdles of other services like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and all at this time because I want to concentrate on the quality of this podcast. And I feel like if I have to go through other means and have to go through other avenues of getting this podcast up, it's not going to be the quality that I like it to be. So I'm just going to bypass all of that for the moment. We may in the future return to those platforms, but while I'm getting this new one off the ground, I feel like it is probably worthwhile to hold off and concentrate on YouTube. So this podcast today will be split into 4 segments. There will be timestamped down in the description of the video. We'll be talking about Baldur's Gate 3 in the gaming portion. We'll be talking about the second part of the Lounge House Road Trip in the animation portion. Just because I have switched over to a new podcast doesn't mean I'm going to leave you hanging with that review. I want to get through that review. And we're also going to be talking about a couple of answers I got to the Game of the Year question I asked in the Treehouse Discord server. And then before all that, I'm going to kind of explain what this podcast is about, what to expect, how it will be formatted, and what we'll be doing in the future. So, without further ado, if you're new here, make sure to leave a like on the video. That's what helps me know that you're enjoying these podcasts and all that sort of good stuff. Be sure to subscribe to be notified of new videos every single day. This podcast will be released hopefully every Saturday. Probably not every, but most Saturdays. Because I'm not very good at keeping that kind of schedule. At 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. British summertime. So, yeah, let's get into our first segment where we are going to talk about generalized how is this podcast going to work and what will you expect to hear and see throughout this podcast's lifespan. The entire purpose of me redoing this podcast from the ground up is to make it more enjoyable for me and to hopefully make it more enjoyable for you. If you were around for Destination Treehouse, you probably noticed that after a while I was getting pretty burnt out pretty fast. And what I mean by that is, one, I would promise an episode and it would never come. Or I would rush an episode out because I felt like I needed to get one out. And I don't want to do that anymore because there are a lot of things I want to talk about that don't fit the originals format or the gaming video format. And I would love to talk about them. I just haven't had the avenue to do such thing up to this point. And we are finally with A State of Serenity going to get that avenue. So, with that being said, what can you expect? You can expect gaming discussions. You can expect animation discussion. You can expect a community discussion. Or just a miscellaneous discussion. I like to have a community discussion every week. I don't know how well that's going to go, depending on if I can come up with enough interesting topics to keep it up with that. Obviously, I'm going to welcome new topics in that sense to be recommended to me through social media and the mailing list, which I'll talk about here in a minute. But, yeah, I mean, I'd like to have a community thing every week. Just don't know if that's going to be possible. So with that, there's also the thing of what would the third segment be if I don't have a community thing. I just pick something big in the news that week, mostly probably from the gaming or animation space, trying to keep it. I won't go all out there. I'm never going to have a political segment in this show or any of my things. I just don't think that's necessary. So like some sports, some music, some gaming, some animation. It'll just be a miscellaneous third segment on a story or a concept that I feel like would be pretty useful and pretty interesting to talk about that week. So this week it's going to be the current state of the game of the year vote. What would that be for you? What would you be looking for in a Game of the Year vote? I've gotten a couple of answers to that, and a couple of all of my own answers to that, and we'll get into that toward the end of the podcast. So, like I said, the format will be gaming, animation, community, or miscellaneous topic, and then we'll wrap it up. All of that will every week be time-stamped down in the description below, because that's the beauty of YouTube. I can timestamp it, and you can go to what you want to listen to. I recommend listening to the whole thing because you might find out about something you didn't know about, or find out about something you probably are interested in after. So that's just kind of where I'm going from. But if you don't want to listen to the whole thing, I'm obviously not going to make you. I'm not going to behold you to that. But I do recommend listening to the whole thing, right? Honestly, it helps my bottom line, too. It helps my retention rate. It helps me get ranked in search so I can provide more content to more of you. So, obviously, I want that, but obviously, I can't make you do that. But I am going to be forthcoming and say, yes, listening to more helps my retention rates, and it does help me out a little bit. So, that's kind of where I'm coming from. So, with that being said, what are other ways you can help the podcast? Well, down in the description, first link in the description is a Beacon.ai link. That is don't let that link fool you. It is the link in bio. It just has all the links to the podcast, currently Mastodon, Instagram, and Twitter, and of course the YouTube channel where you're listening to this podcast right now. So, yeah, and then we also have the mailing list, which is also on the Beacon.ai link. What can you expect from the mailing list? Just give me your email address. I won't see the email addresses the way it's being delegated. It's just going to provide me with an opportunity to get more in contact with y'all on a more personal level. Just basically giving me the option to get more community feedback, give you some opportunity to get your voice heard on a deeper level. That way I don't get overwhelmed by the public side of things. Basically just giving you the option to get behind the scenes, get updates and news on the show as it comes about. So, with that being said, if you want to subscribe to the mailing list, go to the Beacon.ai link, and it should be the first link at the top of the thing, where you can just put in your email address and your name, and you'll get a welcome email from me explaining what it is, and then you will at least get an email every week when this show comes out, explaining what episode you're getting and what it's about, and all the topics in the episode. So, yeah. And before we move into our first real segment, more into the idea of why I did this. I kind of touched on it in the intro, but I never really went full in on it. The reason I did this is because, well, I got burnt out on just doing the same animation podcast every week or every 2 weeks for 4 years, because we did the Casa Loud chill out sessions, we did Ecliptic Explorers, and chill out sessions got 60-something episodes. Then we did Ecliptic Explorers, we did Destination Treehouse. There were over 100 episodes of that podcast over 4 years, and that burnt out on me a little faster than I'd like it to, but you probably heard pretty quickly why it burnt me out. I was doing the same thing every week. It was hard for me to change the format. It was hard for me to want to go further with it, so I just kind of took a step back this past month and said, what do I want to do as a podcaster? And what I want to do as a podcaster is give you a general knowledge thing, give you a general thing where we can just talk about anything and everything and have some fun. Obviously, I do plan to have some guest stars on. I do plan to have some pretty interesting topics, and you will get knowledge of those as things go forward with this podcast. So, yeah, we're going to move into the first segment, which will be a gaming segment about Baldur's Gate 3, and it's impact on the gaming industry and everything as a whole. I have a lot to say about that. And then after that, we'll be talking about the Lighthouse Road Trip. And after that, we'll be talking about the Game of the Year and standards and what potentially could be a Game of the Year for myself and for the gaming industry. So then we'll obviously wrap it up with an outro. So, yeah. One more thing. I do think that it should be noted that I will be uploading highlights of this as their own videos every week. I don't know if they're going to be on this channel or another channel. Probably on channel 2, if anything. So, yeah, just keep an eye out for that. Probably for a while they'll be on this channel just to get the word out there. So, I keep getting sidetracked. So let's get into the first segment, which is all about Baldur's Gate 3, here in just a bit. I'm going to take a break, and I'll be back with you here on A State of Serenity after the break. Alright, so welcome to the first segment here. This is the gaming segment of today's episode of A State of Serenity. I guess you should have expected this based on how excited I've been on this game for a while. But we're going to talk about Baldur's Gate 3 today. It's a big game. It's, in terms of scope, scale, being critically acclaimed, it's a huge game. So what exactly is Baldur's Gate 3? It is a party-based RPG set in the universe of Dungeons and Dragons. So if you're into D&D, there's a chance you'll really enjoy this game. If you're not into D&D, there's also a chance you'll really enjoy this game because it kind of, while it keeps the difficulty and the immersion of D&D, it's not like old editions of D&D where it was really hard to get into, it was a really high level entry ceiling. It's huge. One game will probably take you about 100 hours. It's to get through everything in one game, and that's just assuming you can get through all the choices you want to make as that character. There's 12 classes, all from the D&D 5th edition Player's Handbook. A lot of skills in the Player's Handbook. It's built off the Player's Handbook, and that's just impressive to look at. Impressive to see that Larian has done. And so you could easily get 2 or 3 or 4 complete games out of this and not get bored and want to keep playing. So you're going to get your money's worth. It is a $60 game. The only DLC available for it is a Digital Deluxe Edition. If you play Early Access, you get that for free. To show you how invested I've been in it, obviously you're seeing new episodes of this, new episodes of the game twice a week on the channel as videos, Tuesdays and Fridays. Myself and Luna are streaming it to co-op mode once a week on Saturdays. So, I mean, you're getting huge amounts of this content. I've already spent 22 hours on the game, and that's a lot for me in a week, because I obviously have a full-time job and everything like that. So, it's a lot for me in a week. If you can pick a lot of my free time up as one game, you're doing something right. And Baldur's Gate and Larian did something right. They picked up to 22 hours of my time in just a week. It's been a week. When you're seeing this, this is coming out August 12th. This came out August 3rd. You picked up a lot of my time. So, if you're wondering where I've been in some days with new games, that's where I've been. I've been playing Baldur's Gate 3. So, yeah. What do I mean by critically acclaimed, though? I mean that it's gotten overwhelmingly positive reviews on Steam in just a matter of a week. We're at 96% in the last 30 days. We're at 93% overall of 129,000 reviews at the time of this recording. So we're on the verge of getting to overwhelmingly positive overall. And for good reason. It is a game in the year of our Lord 2023 that has no microtransactions, no in-game purchases, no paywalls, no battle passes, no pre-order content that exploits the crap out of people. And you don't even need an internet connection to play. It's not always online. It's not a live service game. That's huge in 2023. And that is a huge reason why Larian and the game are getting such high praise from the community. I mean, come on. You're getting the whole price of entry for one price of $59.99. That's a huge deal. And the Digital Deluxe Edition is worth it. It's only $10. It's worth it. You get, let's just run down everything. You get the Bard Song Pack, which gives you a special set of songs for the Bard class. 2 exclusive dice skins. You get the paintings from Rivalon, a new collection of paintings inspired by Divinity Original Sin 2, their previous game. The Adventurer's Pouch. Receive a collection of camp supplies and potions to help you get your journey started. The digital OST. The soundtrack composed by Borislav Slavov. The digital art book written by Larian. A bunch of digital character sheets inspired by each origin character. So I think that's 6 or 7. And you get the Divinity Original Sin item pack, which includes the Bicorn of the Sea Beast, which is headgear, Needle of the Outlaw Rogue, which is the dagger, the Lute of the Merryweather Bard, a playable instrument for the Bard, Cape of the Red Prince, cloak inspired by the Red Prince, and Mask of the Shapeshifter headgear, inspired by Divinity Original Sin 2. But they're wholly unnecessary, words of the Steam page, but they're awesome. And they're only $10. You're getting like a lot of things there for only $10. Obviously, none of them are necessary. None of them are needed to change the outcome of your game. They're just there. Like I said, if you paid for early access, you got it for free. If you didn't pay for early access, it's $10. If you don't want it, you don't get it. That's the bottom line. And then we move forward into the thing of it's just taking the world by storm. PlayStation pre-orders have eclipsed even Madden. They've eclipsed Madden NFL. If you go in the PlayStation store, I don't know right now, but 2 days ago, come on, you were seeing Baldur's Gate 3 from a indie dev over Madden 24 Deluxe Edition, Mortal Kombat Deluxe Edition, Spider-Man 2 Deluxe Edition, EA Sports FC Ultimate Edition. That's insane. I mean, come on. That's a really good job from Larian Studios. You cannot deny the huge impact that this has had on the gaming industry. And I think it comes from, one, people are just wanting a truly good D&D game. But also, people are tired of being exploited in the gaming industry. They just want a game that they can play, not have to be online, not have to pay for extra crap, pay for cosmetics, pay for an edge, you know? And I think that that's a big part of why Baldur's Gate has done a good job. And let's just be honest, I think the bear sex scene has kind of pushed it forward too. Obviously, if you don't want to do that, you don't have to do that. But I think that that's kind of what pushed it forward. It's out there. Is it good? Maybe, maybe not. But did it get their name out there? Oh, yeah, it did. And that's kind of what helped them. So they've done a lot here. And let's just go, while we're on this topic of gamers not wanting to be taken advantage of. Overwatch 2 from Blizzard Entertainment launched on Steam 2 days ago, on August 10th, 2023. It says free to play, but you've got a $14.99 Invasion bundle that is not eligible for refund. You got an Invasion Ultimate bundle, which is $39.99, not eligible for refund. You got the Hero Collection, which is $4.99, which is a jumpstart to Hero Collection, or a Complete Hero Collection, which is instant access to the full hero roster, which everything does that in this space. I don't really look at that one. Smite does that with the Ultimate God Pack. I think Paladin does that. So, I mean, these hero shooters, God game, MMO, MOBA games, they all do it. So I don't look at that as much as I do the Invasion bundles. They could have easily made that free, but they made it either $15 or $40. And there's a lot more in the in-game store as well. So people are tired of this, and they're showing their displeasure. All reviews in the last 48 hours, 12% positive. This is a game from Blizzard Entertainment, one of the biggest mega corporations in the gaming world. They are taking advantage of their consumers. The consumer is not happy, so they are making their unhappiness unknown. Or not unknown, very much known. And I applaud them for doing so, because Blizzard needs to be taken down a notch. And people with Baldur's Gate, they are showing that. They are definitely showing that displeasure with Overwatch, but they're showing their absolute pleasure, figuratively and literally, if you know what I mean, with Baldur's Gate 3. And Baldur's Gate 3 is a huge thing to be looked at. I'm excited to see the PlayStation launch, especially when it's launching right on the same day. Point blank, the same day as Starfield. Starfield's not on PlayStation. Baldur's Gate 3 is. So obviously people that don't have an Xbox or a PC are probably going to go the Baldur's Gate route. Are they going to compete with Starfield overall with the Xbox and PC thing? It's yet to be seen. But I think they have a pretty good shot at it, with considering that they already have #1 pre-orders in the PlayStation Store. That's huge. So yeah, is Baldur's Gate 3 for everyone? Probably not. Do I recommend it? Heck yeah, I do. Probably just finish streaming co-op right as this goes out. So yeah, I do. Heck yeah, I do recommend it. I recommend it at the full price. I hardly ever say that. I fully recommend this at full price, because you're going to get at least 75 to 100 hours out of one game. You're going to get multiple games out of it if you want to play that way. You're going to get hundreds, if not thousands, of hours out of it over time. I mean, I'm just seeing in the Steam reviews, 500 hours, 100 hours. I mean, come on. That's just huge. So yeah, Larian has done a good job here. I recommend the game highly. But let's just get into the next topic. I'm going to take a quick break here, and we're going to get into the next topic, which is the Lighthouse Road Trip Part 2. I'll see you after the break in the next segment. Alright, so the next segment of today's show is all about the second part of the Lighthouse Road Trip arc that just aired in July. Like I said, just because I'm not doing Destination Treehouse anymore doesn't mean I'm not going to do some occasional Lighthouse stuff. There is an animation segment in this show for a reason. And, well, I kind of want to keep going through this because I loved the road trip arc. I want to give it the time of day, give it all the reviews that I can give it, and get through it. I'm not going to just leave you hanging after Bizarratorium, you know? So, you know how I said in jest that there would never be a political segment on the show? Well, there's a political segment, because this episode we're talking about first is Bringing Down the House. It's the second episode of the road trip story arc, and they go on a tour of the White House. What is the White House? Is the house of which the United States President lives in. You should probably know that, but it just feels ironic that I said I'm never going to do anything political, and then we get political undertones by visiting the White House and the Loud House. But, I mean, even as I say it, I'm kind of glad they did it, because it kind of shows that they aren't afraid to go that kind of route if they need to. And, I mean, yeah, they're not afraid to go the route if they need to, and they're able to make a pretty decent episode out of it. So, because if I'm recapping, Rita got this task from her job to go tour the country for the summer, do some travel pieces, and report back to the the boss of her company, Jesse Hiller. And yeah, so there are different things that the family wants to do. They want to, like Lynn wants to visit the president's bowling alley. Lana wants to go to the ice cream parlor. Lola wants to see the room that showcases all of the First Lady's dresses. Lynn Sr. wants to go to the kitchen. I mean, things that the characters are interested in, they want to go to the room in the White House that correspond to their interest. Nice little details there. So the family gets to the White House and their tour guide, Bosley Bullsworth, arrives and learns the Lau's identities. And he tells them that because of their rambunctiousness and their notoriousness for being destructive, they will be skipping all of the rooms that they really did want to see. So that kind of throws a monkey wrench in everything now, doesn't it? So that he tells them that, and that's when they start the tour. I also learned that this episode that the White House has a dungeon. Yeah, that checks out. Probably a newer one that I've heard. I've never heard that, but if it does, wouldn't surprise me. If it doesn't, I'm leaning towards it actually doesn't. But, you gotta have some imagination, right? So they continue to tour the White House, and that's when Lana, Lynn, Lola, they discover the rooms they were looking forward to seeing. And the others decide to say, okay, we'll cover for you. You guys go try out the rooms. Go check them out. You really wanted to do it. Bosley's a buzzkill, so we'll cover for you. Go do the rooms. Go have fun. Obviously, they deviate from the tour and they damage things. Lynn left a hole in one of the bowling lanes after throwing a ball. Luna broke one of the strings on a guitar in the music room. Lincoln accidentally broke a bust of Abraham Lincoln while spinning on a chair in the Oval Office. Lana broke one of the ice cream dispenser's nozzles. Sounds like the pudding dispenser at the retirement home. Lola accidentally ripped the First Lady's dress while walking in it, due to the dress being way too big for her. And Lynn Sr. ruined a cake made for the president's birthday while playing with the utensils in the kitchen. The man ruined the president's birthday. That's just mean. I know he didn't mean to do it, but the man ruined the president's birthday. Because of their reckless actions, the family does think that they will be sentenced to the dungeon forever. But just sneak back and fix the damage they caused, is what Lincoln says. That's what I would do anyway. I'm just going to be honest, as a years-long Wild House fan, there are things that the characters end up learning lessons for that are so easily fixable by just going back and no harm, no foul. You don't have to admit to anything, right? Maybe I just don't have as much of a moral compass as these characters, but that's what I do. I'd be afraid of the consequences, and I'd go back and fix it. And they're probably about 70% of these problems are pretty easily fixable. So they go through and they fixed all the issues, and they believe they successfully got away with their actions. They're going to get caught no matter what. I mean, what do you think? The White House, of all places in the country, does not have freaking surveillance? I mean, come on. Yeah, they're going to get caught because there's surveillance. So they try to sneak into surveillance, and Bosley's in there and reveals that he has the hard drive containing their footage. So he saw everything, as he sensed the family was causing trouble. Bosley calls up the president to say he's going to throw the Laus in the dungeon, and the president speaks up and says he likes what the Louds did, saying that the bowling alley is much smoother, the ice cream machine no longer leaks, the First Lady loves the additions to her dress, the bust of Abe Lincoln no longer scares him, and the new cake is even tastier. You know, all is well that ends well, right? So, I mean, it works out, right? I mean, all of it works out in the end. So the episode ends with Bosley saying he's not happy. Understandable, but you were going to throw kids in a dungeon. Do you realize the bad optics that brings forth? But yeah, that's the end of the first half of this episode that we're going to talk about. We're going to go on the Mountain Hard Path. So I like this episode. Like I said, I never expected the Loud House to kind of bring this type of plot forth. And they did it. They brought in a political thing in terms of the White House, and they made it apolitical. And props to them. Applause to them. A lot of things in today's society can't make things apolitical. So I got to give it credit where credit's due. And it was a really strong episode because of it. So I liked it better than Bizarratorium, quite honestly. Bizarratorium was pretty darn good for a 22-minute episode. But I like this a little better than Bizarratorium just because of its ability to bring forth the political system in America without making fun of it in this way. They're having fun. It's lighthearted, but they're not making fun of people within it, and that's a big part of why I like this episode. Shows that this can still be done, and I'm very happy about that. So let's move on to Mountain Hard Pass, the second half of this episode, which is the plot synopsis that shows up is intimidated by an intense day of hiking in the Rocky Mountains. The Loud kids try to find reason to call off the hike. So they went from Washington, D.C. to Colorado, as the next piece on the travel article was in the Rocky Mountains. So the itinerary is a 10-mile hike through the mountains. The kids don't want to do it because they've lived in an RV for a week, or for weeks at a time, and are not interested. Their dad tries to say, "No, join the hike. It'll be fun," wearing Lincoln's convincing suit, and Lincoln gets convinced in how bad it could be. So the kids get completely exhausted from the hike because of the constant weather changes, the bugs, no phone signal, all first world problems, if I do say so myself. It is kind of sad, though, that Rita and Lynn Sr. Are doing better than the kids. The kids are more tired than their parents. So, kids, step it up. Step it up. So, the sisters want Lincoln to convince their parents to stop the hike early, but Lincoln can't do that because his dad stretched his convincing suit. Lynn knew what he was doing. You know he knew what he was doing. So they try to go back to the RV. They try to get a plan to go back to the RV. Lucy accidentally drops the backpack containing their entire food supply into a river, and they couldn't get it back. Unfortunately, this doesn't convince their parents to go back, as they just say, "We'll go forage for berries." Might want to make sure that those berries are not poisonous. Lola tries to pretend that she's gotten a rash from poison oak, and they just decide to make an all-natural cure, including squirrel crap. Maybe not the best thing to tell Lola. You maybe could have just kept that one secret. And that's when they kind of go on and continue the hike. The kids try to do another plan by saying they need to use the bathroom, so they go on and disperse into different directions. And so they instead decide to pretend to be a mountain goat. And that's when they decide to finally call off the hike. Because losing your food supply and getting poison oak is not as bad as a mountain goat. Right? Okay. So they actually, as they're running back to the RV, decide, or not, they actually see real mountain goats. So they get chased by them. They go through all this trouble to try and get away from them. And Rita has finally said she regrets bringing the kids on the hike. And, well, they just decide to, the kids finally decide to, while Rita is pouring their heart out to them, decide to say they sabotage the hike, and obviously the parents are mad. And they tried to do what nature provides to get back. But overall, I like this episode, not as much as the last two, but I like this episode. Felt like a little bit of a play. To me, felt like a little bit of a filler episode for this road trip, but I didn't hate it. I wouldn't turn it off when it came on TV. So I got to give it credit where credit due there. So yeah, I mean that's a good second half of the episodes. We're going to be moving on to our final segment, which is going to be a Game of the Year discussion. I want to kind of get into that as I have a couple of discussions to get into about that. It's our community discussion for the week. So I'll be right back here in just a minute. Alright, so welcome to the final segment here. After a quick break, we're back. The final segment today is going to be a community segment. I asked in the Trios Discord server, what is your current game of the year and why? And I got a couple of responses, and I'm going to kind of... I plan on doing 3 responses. I got 2. I'm going to supplement that with my personal response as well, and that'll give us 3. So the first one comes from Matt Gello. I don't know. I think I'm saying that name right. I will say I am a freaking awesome person at butchering names. So apologies if I butcher anyone's name during these segments. So yeah, I mean, Matt says his favorite is SpongeBob The Cosmic Shake because it had a great story and is much easier to finish compared to Battle for Bikini Bottom. That's one I have played. I've actually played it on the channel here, about 4 episodes. I never finished it. I planned to, and then something else came out. I can't remember what, and I just never got around to finishing it. I was like halfway. I think I still even got the videos that I didn't upload recorded, so or ready to upload. So I have to say I loved the half that I played of it. It is much easier to finish thing compared to Battle for Bikini Bottom, and it was back to the discussion that we had in the gaming segment on Baldur's Gate. It's a complete game. There were some bugs at launch because I played it early. It's actually currently on sale as I'm looking at it right now for 50% off. But there were a few bugs that came out. They fixed them pretty quick within about a month of release. Or a few months of release. I mean, for some reason I thought it came out in April. It came out in January. But yeah, it came out and they fixed some bugs pretty fast. About 5 patches. Got plenty of accolades. And it was a pretty darn good game. For $40, about 8 hours of content. I know 8 hours of content is a huge thing. Like a huge debate in gaming right now. I kind of want to get into that in one of our segments later on. But for me, it was 8 hours of really stellar content. Like it was worth the $40. I'm not saying that because I got a review code for it, but I'm just saying that because it was truly a really good, solid game. So I got to give them credit where credit due. So yeah, I have to agree that's a good choice there, Matt. It did have a great story. I got through about half of it. I planned to finish it, like I said, never finished it. Then our second answer comes from Minerva, and their answer is Legend of Zelda: Tears from the Kingdom. The game just has a fantastic sense of exploration, which together with the crafting makes the game feel massive and rich, like you could play a million different ways. I played about 3 hours of Tears from the Kingdom. It's definitely a game of the year. Getting rid of all biases, that is definitely a game of the year candidate. For just for the reason it's a Zelda game, it outsold basically everything up to this point. I think there's only been a couple of games that have outsold it. I think probably only one since it came out, and that's Baldur's Gate. If it hasn't outsold it, it's gotten really darn close to, if not to outselling it, and if not outselling it, being outplayed. Because I think I saw something from IGN that it was becoming like the most played game of the year so far. So I'm talking about Baldur's Gate in the sense that passing over freaking Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. That's massive. So definitely Tears of the Kingdom is a game of the year contender. Again, it's a game with so far no DLC. I don't know. I'm not huge on Nintendo news. You can correct me on social media or in the comments if I'm wrong with this. But so far I've not heard that they have extra DLC content prepared for it. Like expansion packs. I think there were 2 for Breath of the Wild. So far, another one that is, you got the entire game when you bought it for $70, and you got to play it. There were no microtransactions. There was no season pass to get. It was just the entire game. And I think that there is a big push, especially with Baldur's Gate, that the gaming community in general is kind of getting to the point of we're tired of being taken advantage of. Give us a finished game. Give us a complete game. Quit trying to milk us for money, and give us something that we can relinquish ourselves and give our all to and play 80 to 100, 120 hours of, and not get bored, and make it worth our while. Make it a quality game that comes out completely polished. Maybe a few bugs, but not like 1,000 that require a day one patch. But give us something that on day one works, and we can feel confident that spending $70 is the right decision. So, I mean, Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, all very valid critiques there with fantastic sense of exploration, very nice open world. It has a really deep crafting system. It's one of those games that I only played 3 hours of, and I really, really personally want to finish it. And I do plan on finishing it. It's just a lot of games have come out here together, and I'm trying to finish those at the same time. Especially with Baldur's Gate and then Starfield coming out September 1st or September 6th. I mean, yeah, it's just a lot. A big year for games, and that kind of brings me into my personal game of the year. It's Baldur's Gate 3. Feels like a pretty easy choice for me. I would have said Tears of the Kingdom. I would have said Age of Wonders 4. Miasma Chronicles. Marvel's Midnight Suns. I am used to never really be huge into tactical games. Grand Strategy was my biggest thing for a couple of years. 2022, my game of the year was Total War Warhammer 3. I got nearly 200 hours on it. I still play it every day, mostly, so I just love it. But this year, so far, Baldur's Gate 3 is my game of the year. Really, only 2 games can top it. One I'm more optimistic about topping than the other. Those are Starfield. I think that that's going to be a huge contender for Game of the Year for myself and a lot of other people, and at the Game Awards. And also Total War Pharaoh. I've liked what I've seen on the Total War Pharaoh's simple marketing push. It comes out in October. But I'm going to need a little more to decide whether I want to buy it. I'll probably end up buying it anyway, because I just like the the Total War franchise. Probably won't pre-order it, but I'll probably end up buying it through like a key site, a verified key site, like Humble Bundle or Fanatical. So that's the other one. But that's one I'm less optimistic about pushing Baldur's Gate over the edge than I am Starfield. I think Starfield has a really good shot if it launches in a good state to push Baldur's Gate down to second place. And why Baldur's Gate? Because it's just simply fun. It's you can create your own character and get immersed in a game for 100 hours. It works. It's complete. There's been very few bugs that break the game, and they're fixed pretty darn fast. There's already been 4 hot fixes within about a week, so Larian is on it, and they are staying on it. So I got to give them full credit for that. It's just a fun experience. The entire game is a fun experience, and it makes me feel like a part of the world. There are some gruesome parts of Baldur's Gate, but I can overlook those because it's not supposed to. I talked to a friend that played D&D regularly, and he said that it is not supposed to just leave details open. It's supposed to give you every detail because that's what it is. D&D is a very immersive game. It has to give you every detail. So if it's as gruesome as pulling a parasite out of a guy's eye, that's what it's going to do, right? It's pretty gruesome. I don't recommend it if you're squeamish. Even I'm a little squeamish, but I don't recommend it if you're squeamish, and I don't recommend it if you're below the age of 18, because there's some language and some stuff in the game that kind of maybe isn't the best for younger folks. So yeah, that's my game of the year. Let me know what you think in the comments below. What your game of the year is. Tweet me on social media. And we'll be back here in just a minute as I wrap up today's first episode of State of Serenity. We'll be right back. And with that is the end of the first episode of State of Serenity. I hope you like this new format. I sure as heck did. It felt really nice to record a podcast. Sit for about 45 minutes and just pour my heart out for the things I enjoy. And I really enjoyed it. I hope you enjoy it too. And I think you'll be happy to hear that this is going to be on a more regular basis, once every week or so. Hopefully, if I miss a week, once every other week. I really want to keep this consistent because I'm going to be pushing the boundaries of the podcast side of my repertoire with this series. I want to try new things. I want to do new editing styles. You saw that with today's episode. I can concentrate more a little on the visual side because I'm doing things on YouTube only now. So I really enjoyed recording this episode. I enjoyed editing it. The editing will get better and more cohesive as weeks go forward. But I think for a first episode, I'm happy with the editing. A little bit of announcements. The episodes will be every Saturday at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. BST. There is a link down below to give you the time in your time zone. I'm trying to be better about that as well. And when there's originals will now also come out on the day of podcasts. So originals are not going anywhere. They will just replace that week's podcast episode. And the first one I have planned is currently August 26th. We'll be going back through a Nicktoon that was completely shafted. I hate that it did not get the love that it deserved and needed to have to succeed. And that's Ollie's Pack. I adored that show. I watched every episode of it like 3 or 4 times. It's on Paramount Plus now. I want to go back and watch it. And it just feels like the perfect time to go back and do an original so I can really show you why I love that episode and why it deserved more love. And I have 3 of those planned for the next couple of months to go back and do some videos kind of showing why older Nicktoons got shafted. And Ollie's Pack is the first one. I got It's Pony in the list. I got Welcome to the Wayne in the list, and probably some more. But those are the 3 that I have planned right now. Those will be the next 2 or 3 originals. And unless I just come up with something I want to do between them, which is very possible. But yeah, so that's the first news. That Ollie's Pack original is currently slated for August 26th. If it gets pushed back a week, don't be surprised because I have to watch through all, I think, 30 episodes of Ollie's Pack again as I write the script for it. So that's easier said than done. Am I right? So I'll probably watch through 3 or 4 a day, and then once I get through them all, write the script and be on my merry way, record it, and I can edit it in a day. So, yeah, that shouldn't be the hard part. I just got to get through it. Gotta not let procrastination get the best of me and get through it. So that's the first announcement. In terms of videos to expect between now and this week, I'm doing more Baldur's Gate, more Minecraft. There's a couple of new games that have come out with DLC and just new games in general this week that I want to cover. Hammerwatch 2 is one of them that's coming out this week. Gourd, the newest game from Team 17. I want to cover that this week. And Way of the Hunter. That's another one. And I've also got a re-look where we go back and look at a game that I've already covered this year on Wall World because it got a new DLC coming within the next week or two. So, and I've also got Vampire Hunters. So a lot of games that kind of piled up. And yeah. So another big thing, there is now a clips channel. It is down in the description for you to go check out. I'll be uploading 1 or 2 highlights of the podcast every week to the clips channel. And so for those who maybe don't want to sit and listen to a 45 or 50-minute podcast, you can go back and listen just the gaming segment, or just the animation segment, or just the community segment. And all's well will be that ends well with that. I talked to some people, I kind of focus tested that idea, and a lot of them said, yeah, I don't like sitting there listening to a 45-minute podcast. I like having the option, even if I want to listen to the 45-minute podcast, I like having the option to go and say, okay, I just want to listen to this gaming segment that's 12 or 14 minutes long. And they go listen to that one segment. And that's their prerogative. That's good. So, yeah, that kind of makes everyone happy. If you want to listen to the whole thing, you can listen to the whole thing. If you don't want to listen to the whole thing, you have the clips. Those will be out on Mondays and Wednesdays. I'll render those as I render the main video. And yeah, the last bit of things that I have to talk about. Thanks for all the support lately. The channel's been doing really well. And with this being exclusively on YouTube, I can kind of really push the content barrier. Like I said in another segment, I really want to push the content barrier and kind of do things out of my comfort zone with the editing and the way this show style works. And I think with time, we'll get through that. Editing will kind of get improved and more cohesive every week as time goes on. And with that, I think that is a good point to wrap up today's episode. So, if you want to get notified of the new episodes, make sure to subscribe to the mailing list down below. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, as there will be new episodes here every Saturday. Except for originals, which will also be on Saturdays at the same time. So, yeah. I think all that makes sense. If you have any questions, be sure to tweet me at Seren Santiago. I'm also on Mastodon at Seren Santiago. And all of the State of Serenity links are down in the description below. And yeah, go check out the highlights channel, where new highlights will begin this Monday. And with that, thanks for listening. Hope you enjoyed this first episode of the podcast. And I'll see you next Saturday for episode number 2, where we will be talking about Haley's On It once again. Talking about something new in the gaming space. And haven't decided on the community thing yet, so it'll either be a community thing or a miscellaneous topic I may find interesting between now and then. So yeah, that's going to do it. I will see you next time for another episode of State of Serenity. Thanks for listening. I appreciate you all. See you next time.